And that's all for me, Dan. Take it away.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Well, actually, you're probably afternoon. I'm in Hawaii, so it's 9 o'clock my time. It must be at least 12 o'clock for most of you. Um, well, let's get started. My name is Dan Ihara. I am the leader of KW Real Estate Planner. I'm a realtor just like you. Many of you still go on listing appointments. So do I. Uh, every day I go to 1 to 3 appointments a day. And we have a fairly large business here in Hawaii. We're the number one team in Hawaii. I'm also a MAPS coach. I teach this class called Securing Listings with the Wealthy, and we also have a large team that we've sold over $1 billion of real estate. We've actually closed over 350, or almost probably closer to 400 1031 exchanges without fail. And today we're going to talk about how do we attract that wealthy investor. Here's some contact information. If you need to reach us for contact questions or administrative questions or even the recording, it will all be available for you. Okay, so TCPA disclaimer, we must comply to all TCPA federal, state, and local laws. So please do not call people you should not be calling or texting as well. So what's our goal today? I want to share with you some 3 magic questions, simple questions that'll help you get appointments. Then when you get appointments, I'm going to teach you 10 questions that are going to help you convert to an agreement with the wealthy. These are people that have more than one property, right? And that's our goal. When I got into real estate 20 years ago, I realized that I needed to get listings. And in order to get listings, I needed to find people that always wanted to sell. Well, who are those folks? And who owns most of the pieces of real estate? That's the wealthy older adult, the baby boomer and their parents, right? They've amassed the most amount of wealth. And we're going to talk about questions versus, having less talking and more questions. When you approach the world with questions and curiosity, number one, you're going to learn more. Number two, you're going to build trust, right? And that's our goal, is to build trust and relationships with those around us, such that they would like to use us. Once we show them that we have a path for them that's proven to help them build, protect, and transfer wealth. Then we're going to close up with the 5 questions why we don't ask questions. Okay. All right. So magic question number 1. This is a question you ask anybody in your database. Do you own more than one property? Do you own more than one property? It's a pretty simple question. It's a yes or no. Well, if it's yes, guess what? You found an investor. So in the world of real estate and pretty much any business, if we can qualify the people we spend time and money and effort on, there's a greater chance we're going to convert at a higher level, right? And so instead of just knocking on every stranger's door and not knowing who they are and what they are, what if you could find them? Well, it's a simple question. Do you own more than one property? Ask that to anybody you know in your database, standing in line at Starbucks, whatever it might be. See, because if the answer is no, guess what? My next question is, if you could, would you? That's another magic question. That's a bonus because that's not on the 3 here. If you could, would you? So if they say, do you own more than one property? They say, no, I don't. And my next question is, if you could, would you? They go, yeah. Is Thursday or Friday better for us to get together such that we can talk about this opportunity for you? What you want to remember is there's really 2 functions in having a successful business. Number 1, you have to have an appointment. And number 2, you have to have an agreement. Okay. Well, you can't get to an agreement until you get to an appointment. Many people are trying to convert on the phone to an agreement, and that's not going to work out so well for you. What I've learned over the last 20 years is the more conversations and repetitions I have on appointments, my conversion ratio is going to rise, right? And it actually has. Our conversion ratio is extremely high. So do you own more than one property? Pretty simple question, right? Next question is, how's that working for you? Right? It's a common question. What you're looking for is you're looking for pain. You're looking for a problem. You see, if somebody has a problem, they want to run away from that problem. If everything is fine for them, then they don't have any problem. Therefore, they may not do anything. This might be another good qualifying question. If they say, how's that working for you? You said, man, I have the greatest home ever. I have the highest cap rate I could find in my market. Then guess what? They're not really going to be selling, or they don't have any pain. So your goal is to find pain. Your goal is to find a problem and allow people to tell you. What do we hear most of the time? How's that working for you? My tenant just left. We had a water leak. The insurance rates are going higher. Property taxes are higher. I'm not making much money. It's vacant now. Tenant's not paying. All of these problems are happening today. And once you get into this world of the wealthy older adult, you're going to find that they're going to have a lot of these problems, right? And your goal is to ask a question and allow them to talk. Tell me more. How does that make you feel? Right. And so number three is, if you could make more money, would you? See, I already know the answer to that, and you do too, right? And the answer is going to be yes. Nobody says, well, I don't want to make more money. Everybody would choose to make more money. And so I'm asking questions I already know the answer to. Why? Because I want it to come out of their mouth, right? The person that I'm speaking to, when I ask a question and they answer it, they own and claim that belief system. And that's your goal, is to get them to believe that they need help, get them to believe that they need you and they want to move forward. So when you're at the appointment, let's say you're at the appointment now, one of my first questions I ask, and I ask this to everybody that I spend time with, is what would you like to accomplish in the 60 minutes we have together today? You see what I just did? I just looked at my watch, right? So I put them on notice that I'm not going to spend 4 hours with you today. We have a time frame. And so I did two things by doing that. Number one, I get them to tell me what they want to know and do or learn versus what's on my agenda. When I do that, it builds trust. Why? Because it's not about my agenda, it's about what matters to them. See, when clients come into your office and they meet with you, most of us will start on a rampage of, here's how great I am, here's my marketing, here's everything I can do, here's my stats, I'm the number one agent. Frankly, the client really doesn't care. What do they care about? They care about themselves. They care about their situation. And when you have empathy and care and concern and curiosity, you're going to build trust. And that's most important, is starting with that first question. What would you like to get accomplished today in our 60 minutes together? Okay. Because what you want to learn is what are their thoughts and objectives for the time together. The other reason why I did that is I've been doing this for 20 years. And in the beginning, you ever spent 4 hours with an 85-year-old lady that was sweet as heck and wants to talk about all her grandkids? Yeah, that was me. Yeah. I couldn't figure out how to get out of it. And so I realized that, there's a bold law that says you teach people how to treat you. And I'm teaching them that you're going to get 60 minutes with me, and that's free. But yeah, my time is valuable. All right. And then question number two is just a bunch of digging questions. You want to dig for motivation. Your goal is to find out what's causing them. So that's the question you want to ask. What's causing you to want to do this? Whether it be buying or selling, right, or investing, whatever it is, what's causing them? The word why is a very contentious word, you could say, right? What's causing you to do this is a gentler word, but also know that everybody has a reason for doing what they do. There's a cause for it. So when I ask the question, what's causing you to want to do this? They always tell me. It's funny how that works. And I want to know what's inside. I want to know why they're doing what they're doing. And then whatever they say is what's causing you to want to buy. Let's say, I want a bigger house. I want a smaller house, whatever it might be. What's causing you to sell? I want to move and I want to go to a retirement community. I want to spend time with my kids or whatever it is. Then whatever that is the next question is, what about getting a bigger house is important to you? What about getting a smaller house is important to you? Find out deeper of what's causing them to want to do that in a deeper level. And then the next question is, how does that make you feel? Right? If you could do that, how does that make you feel? See, the bold law is, logic makes you think, but emotion makes you act. We want to get to the emotional level, right? Which means you got to go from the logical down to the emotional. And in order to get here, you've got a number of questions you're going to want to ask, because that's going to guide somebody down the path. See, in an hour conversation that I have with our clients, our listing presentation or our strategy sessions that we have, I'll probably ask anywhere from 60 to 100 questions. within that time period. I'm going to learn a lot about the client. Yeah. And here's what's really good about this is they're going to talk a lot. And that's your goal. See, your goal should not be you talking at your client. It should be your client talking to you, telling you what matters most. Because when they do that, the more your client talks to you, the greater the trust rises, the more they like you. Just test it out. Go to a party and just ask questions and don't say a thing. And you're going to find that people around you are going to like you. It's funny how that works, right? Okay. And then, so what would that ultimately do for you? You want to get to the end game. Well, I want to do this because of this, right? Whatever that is. And these are just digging questions, right? And these are just 4 simple digging questions. So when we get to the appointment, our clients, we already know what they have. We've got, when we, in preparation, and when you learn how we get prepared for these appointments, we're going to pull all their tax records of every property they have. There's a thing called Truth Finder. Truth Finder, I can find out every property that they've owned, every property that they have owned or currently own in America. And I'm going to pull the data on it. I'm going to run their their capital gains tax assessment. I'm going to run their cash on cash analysis. I'm going to run their cap rate. I'm going to run all this stuff before I meet with them. Right? That's what preparation looks like. It's quite a bit, and I'll show you a little bit about that in a few seconds. So my next question is, I know they have more than one, so I'm going to ask them, I don't want to be the one that chooses which one they want to talk about. Because I've been wrong about that before. I thought they'd want to talk about this, and I find out I'd spend half an hour in the conversation. They didn't want to talk about that. They wanted to talk about this other property. So I learned from failure, and I stopped doing that. I stopped coming from judgment as to what was most important to them, and I just asked them the question. Which property would you like to discuss first? And then I'm going to ask them, do you understand your capital gains tax liability in the event you were to sell your property? So let me ask you, how many of you asked that question? Not many people around the country do. There's a number of reasons why. One is our industry doesn't teach how to calculate it. Many brokerage firms say don't talk about tax because you're not an accountant. I'm not an accountant, but I do understand the general rules around it. And I do what we call a napkin test. See, when I use the words, would you like a free asset performance test? If I were to ask you that, would you like a free asset performance test? You're all going to say yes. And you don't even know what that is. It's a cash on cash analysis and a cap rate analysis, bundled with your capital gains tax to understand that if you have an investment property and you have gain, there's this thing called capital gains tax. Well, keep in mind, if you've had it a long time, there's a lot of gain, which means there's a lot of tax. And so understanding what matters to the client is going to certainly get you more listings. Certainly. Why? Because agents don't ask it. Our agents in our community are asking this now, and they're getting listings because our clients are saying that, well, you are more concerned about my money versus yours. And that's our goal. See, most realtors are only care about their own commission, right? How much money they get to take home. But what if you flip that on its head and really stop talking about your commission, but started talking about their money, right? Protecting their wealth. How do you protect their wealth? With the 1031 exchange if you have investment properties. Right? And so understanding this is going to elevate your knowledge to a whole nother level that you're going to show up completely differently like anybody else in your marketplace because people are not asking this simple question, do you understand your capital gains tax liability? Right? And then when you show them how much money you can save them, now you're their best friend because the other agent, they never talked about that. The other agent only talked about how great they were and how fast they could sell their home and how much money they could sell it for, not what they're netting, right? So it's not what you make that matters, it's what you keep that matters. Right? So do you know your cost basis? Again, another problem is you can't get the capital gains tax until you get the cost basis. And know that you need to understand cost basis because if you don't, you can't determine capital gain tax. Well, there's 2 types of cost basis. For briefly, there's a step up in cost basis and there's carryover in cost basis. we create real estate plans such that there's going to be a step up in cost basis. What's that? If mom keeps the property in her name until she dies, the value gets stepped up to the value at the date of death. And if that value rises, the stepped up cost basis rises to the value at the date of death, and you sell it at that price, there's zero gain, therefore zero tax. But what if mom passed the property on to me while she's alive? That's a carryover in cost basis. So now when I sell it, I have to absorb her cost basis, right? Which means I got to pay the capital gain tax. See, realtors aren't having these conversations, and I beg you to please learn how to protect your clients' money. This is this is a national mission we're on, to help educate and train realtors to care for their clients' money versus just your commission, right? And you're going to separate yourself. You're going to earn a seat at the table with the wealthy. You're going to get financial planners calling you, trust attorneys calling you, CPAs calling you. Why? Because you show up differently. So how's your investment property working for you? And everybody says it's great. I mean, what does great look like? Right? I'll have a tenant. Oh, that's awesome. My question to them is, do you know what your cap rate is? You know, if you were to ask that simple question, do you know what your cap rate is? Nobody's going to know the answer. And let me tell you why. See, they don't know the answer because all they know in their mind is what they bought the property for. They don't know what they could sell it for today. Right? So number one, they need you to determine the value in the future of when you sell it, because that's the gain, right? So number one, you got to determine that. The other reason why is because they had the property a long time and they've got a great tenant. Little Johnny, he's a great guy. I've had him for 20 years. Well, you know, when they say they've had the tenant for a long time, you know what that tells me? It's underperforming because they never raised the rent equal to the value of the property, right? And so that's how we determine cap rate. I got to tell you, there's only 2 people that had good cap rates in my market out of thousands of people. So if you could make more money, would you? The answer is yes. You just help them out make more money. But you got to understand how to measure it first, right? You have to understand how to determine a cap rate, a capitalization rate. Right? And this is how you earn a seat at the table with the wealthy, because they want to know how you're going to help them build wealth and how to protect their wealth. And then when they get older, they're going to want to know how to transfer wealth without tax. So if you can make more money, would you? The answer is going to be yes. I already know that. And then we show them. Would you like to know how they're performing? And so this is a very simple example of what we do. We've got a very robust engine around this calculator. Because what you want them to know, you want them to ask you, I don't know. Tell me, what does it look like? And so when we look at it, this is just an example of one client. They had, about 8 properties. We showed them the current cap rate of anywhere from 1.62% to as high as 4.87%. And we know that we can get them anywhere from 3 to 4% on our market. If you sold it and put it into a DST, a Delaware Statutory Trust, you can get 5% on it. I've got properties in Georgia that are getting 16%. So knowing how to build wealth is going to attract the wealthy, because that's what they want to do. They don't want to pay capital gain tax, and they just want their money making them more money. And so when you understand how this works, you're going to attract a lot of folks, and it's going to be very simple and easy to help people build wealth. And then when I show them this number, for example, that one in the middle, it says it's 1.34% cap rate. You know, you're how do you feel about that is the next question. And they go, that's not real good, is it? So yeah, no. If the rate of inflation is 2%, you're kind of swimming backwards. You're going deeper underwater. Yeah, you're not even keeping up the rate of inflation. You know, so there's many more ways for people to make money versus what they're doing currently. Your goal is to help them unlock wealth and reposition it to whatever matters most to them, whether it be making more money or blessing their family. So here's your question number 10, and this is kind of a magic question because nobody really asked this question. Do you need the income from your investment property to sustain the life you desire? Does that sound like a realtor? No. Sounds more like a financial planner, right? See, we're a wealth advisor of real estate. That's what we do. We help people build wealth. We help people protect their wealth and then help them transfer it, right? So do you need the income to sustain the life you desire? And they say, no, if they say, yes, I do need the income, then what I'm going to do is show them better options. I'm going to show them properties that I can help them sell theirs and buy another one and make more money. Mathematically, you can do this, right? You just got to have enough research and you have to be all in on building wealth. Right? And when you do, ladies and gentlemen, you're not going to have a lot of competition. Well, we don't in our market at least. Right? And then you're going to lead the seller to selecting the best path. So if you sold this, right now you're getting 1.67%. But if you sold that and you bought this, you get 4%. If you sold that and bought this, you get 5%. If you sold it and bought this, you can get 8%. Whatever it might be, you're showing them and allowing them to select their best path. Once they do that, they're going to sign with you. That's how you get a listing agreement. Right? If you could, would you? They said yes. Would you like to do this sooner or later? Who picks later? It's a simple question, right? Right? Would you like to do this sooner or later? I guess I should do this sooner. Great. Well, here's how you get started. And this is where you slide over the listing agreement and you just start going over it. It's a simple transition from the appointment to the agreement. Right? When you get good at that skill, ladies and gentlemen, it makes it simple and non-contentious. Why? Because I'm only asking questions. I'm not telling them what to do. I'm not saying you should do this. This is what most realtors say. You should do this. Or if I were you, I would do it. I'm never saying those things. I'm just asking them questions, allowing them to self-discover their best journey. And then we're going to start searching for the replacement property. I'm going to sell one and I'm going to buy one. I got one client. I double it. I got 2 transactions, twice the commission, right? One client. Keep in mind, the average landlord has 3 properties. So if you focus on the investor, guess what? Those are the guys with the most amount of wealth in real estate. And most of them, they're the baby boomers and their parents. And most of them have no debt. They've paid it off. So you got a seller, which is also the same guy as a buyer, but he's buying in cash. And he's buying within a certain time frame that he must execute on. 45 days to assign your replacement property, 180 days to close. When you build a business of providing that knowledge, education, and opportunities, you're going to attract the wealthy because those are the guys with the most amount of real estate. Now, if you were to ask them, do you need the income from your investment properties to sustain the life you desire? And they say no, then I'm going to ask them about their kids. I'm going to start figuring out, how do I help them transition wealth? How do I help them transition in such that they don't pay capital gains taxes, such that we can remove the burden of them owning a property, eliminate capital gain taxes, and eliminate the family dispute. Did you know that 70% of families fight over real estate after their mom and dad die? Why does that happen? It happens because people don't have a real estate plan. Right? And I ask everybody that I know, do you have a real estate plan? And I have yet to find somebody that tells me yes. Nobody does. But if you could have a real estate plan such that you protect your family, that you protect your wealth, that you help transfer it well, is that something you'd like? They say yes. Is Thursday or Friday better for you? Ladies and gentlemen, within 3 to 5 questions, you can get to an appointment or an agreement when positioned properly. So I'm going to ask them about their kids, but I have a system around that. And the system is I'm going to start with the oldest and I'm going to go to the youngest. And what's cool about this is within about 5 minutes of questions and about their family, they're going to tell you who they like the most, who they'd like to help. And it's kind of funny. It's entertaining, actually, in many cases. Because I do this 1 to 3 times a day. Okay. So I'm going to ask them about the oldest. Tell me about the oldest. How old is he? Where does he live? What's his name? Is he married? Does he have kids? Does he own his own property? See, if the answer is no, I'm going to put that on my parking lot, and I'm going to use that card a little later because I'm going to ask them if you could help them buy their own home. Would you? And they're going to say yes. And we're going to sell a property, buy another property, allow their kids to enjoy it while mom and dad's alive. This is how you transfer wealth. And so I'm going to determine their needs and their desires, and then we're going to provide some options, and then we're going to lead the seller into selecting that best path. When we do that, we sign a listing agreement. We're going to engage the family together. we're going to have a conversation around mom and dad transferring wealth. Right? Then we're going to start searching for the replacement properties. Because you can sell one property. Let's say mom had a $3 million property and they had 3 kids. You could sell one property and buy 3, one for each of the children. Keep it in mom's name such that there's no capital gains tax. The kids could use it. The kids could actually even co-own it with mom. Now we can transfer wealth without transferring it until she passes. So when mom and dad pass, the kids get all the properties tax-free. You get a step up in cost basis. And this is a class, ladies and gentlemen, that I have taught the Financial Planners Association of Hawaii. The entire association, they have a continuing education class that I taught to do this function. Why? Because financial planners don't know anything about real estate. They've got a lot of wealth though. Right? And so what if every financial planner in your marketplace was your best friend? That they know that you provided solutions to clients, that you could unlock wealth and give the money back to them. You're going to have a lot of friends that way. Trust me. This is how you're going to build a network of leads and referrals that are constantly coming at you. You know, I get 1 to 2 a day from people all over, not only in my market, but off the market. So there's a lot of reasons why people don't ask questions. So I just wanted to go over that. Number one is you're afraid of, your fear of saying the wrong thing. You're concerned about violating fair housing laws or just sounding intrusive. You know, people say to me, I was in, where was I? I was in Beverly Hills, I think, teaching a class, and I was saying to them that, you know, within 20 to 30 minutes, I have their client's entire net worth. They tell me everything that they own and everything that they have. And somebody says to me, well, they're not going to do that for us. I said, well, yeah, not with that attitude, they won't. When you build trust, guess what? All barriers fall down. You see, within 20 minutes, I've probably asked more than 20 or 30 questions. And when I do that, there's trust that's built. Why? Because I'm getting them to talk to me. I'm not talking at them. I'm not trying to sell them on anything. I'm clearly helping them understand what could be possible with their wealth. Right. The other part is the lack of training. You know, we don't know what questions to ask or when to ask them, and we're afraid to sound funny or stupid. Right. Training matters. And over the last 20 years, I've failed a lot. You're looking at the biggest failure you're going to find. Mainly because that's how I learned. Right. That's how I learned through that. And with that, one of the reasons why people don't ask questions is because they don't ask themselves enough questions. And so that's what my homework for you today is, when you wake up every day, are you asking yourself 20 questions? If you're not, then you're not training yourself how to ask questions. Therefore, you don't ask questions. The world teaches us what to say at or to people. I'm gonna suggest that you flip that on its head and you start asking more questions. Come from curiosity versus judgment, because frankly, that was me. I was the judge. You know, I had a very successful career early on. I was in the top 100 in my first year. I was all this ego, and I knew what to do, and I knew what people should do, and I would tell them these things, and it didn't work out so well for me in my early days. I mean, some of the time it did, but many times it didn't. And then every time it didn't work out well, I asked myself this question: what should I have asked that would help me move them forward? And that's a question I'd like you to ask. And this is not only for work and for getting a buyer or a seller. Think of your kids, think of your parents, think of your relatives. What question do you want to ask? So in my phone, I have a question in there. What's the question I want to ask to the people that mean the most to me today? And that's in my phone every day. And I suggest that you embrace questions in a way that it becomes you versus you just trying to remember a script, right? It's going to be a habit you got to build, right? The overconfidence thing is, yeah, that was me. I was arrogant and ego, and I knew what it was, and I was a judge. I got to be the judge. I felt like I earned the right to be the judge. I can tell you what to do because I know better, right? And sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. The other is time constraints. We're rushing through the conversations. We want to get to that next deal. or the next appointment, and you just kind of barrage your way to get to the end, but not realizing that you didn't get anywhere with the client, not realizing that you didn't move somebody in the direction that they desired to move towards. And some people just don't want to sound salesy, not wanting them to seem pushy or aggressive. And well, my question to you is, did any of the questions I asked you sound pushy or aggressive? Right? So tone, pace, right? The words that you use all matter in building this relationship with people, because the number one thing that we need to do, ladies and gentlemen, is build strong relationships. And so what's your chances of building strong relationships if you read a script at somebody and tell them what to do versus asking 3 or 4 questions? You're going to find that the power of the questions is going to unlock your world like it did in mine. It's going to change the way you show up to the world. It's going to change your success ratio in getting appointments and agreements in real estate. And I encourage you to join us on these classes. And if you have your phone, take that out. Today is your last day because tomorrow starts the class. How about that? And so tomorrow we're going to talk about understanding the opportunity with a wealthy older adult. How do you build that network around you, right? What does that look like? And then the next week we're going to talk about being a senior relocation specialist. Because did you know that 1.68 million listings will hit the market this year in the next 12 months in the form of a trust sale or a probate sale? Why? Because somebody's going to pass away. But also know that there's 2.2 million older adults that are going to retire this year, and many of them are going to relocate. Right? And so understanding what kind of question to ask to reveal a problem that happens naturally in the world around you, whether it be your friends, your clients, your parents, your children, your aunties and uncles, we all have relationships. And frankly, when you get older, you're going to have to relocate. And then when you ask the question, do you own more than one property? You're going to lead into the investment world, into the 1031 exchange, into the DSTs and legacy planning. Right? What we do is we create pre-inheritance plans. Just imagine how powerful that is. If you could go to wealthy older adults and ask them, would you like a pre-inheritance plan? And they're going to say, well, what's that? And that's the way we can help you build, protect, and transfer wealth such that you remove the burden of owning properties and you start to unlock wealth to reposition it to what matters most to you. You're gonna get appointments, right? And lastly, wills, trust, and probate, because somebody are going to pass away and they're going to, if it's not in a trust, it's going to probate, right? And so when you become that expert to understand this level of knowledge of how the wealthy have to protect their assets, then you're going to bring value to those around you. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your opportunity. Since you're on this class, take your phone out. You can get 15% off today by using this Web15 promo code. Our class starts tomorrow, and we look forward to having you. And I'm 3 minutes over time. I did pretty good, but I'm open to 2 or 3 minutes of questions if anybody has any. Otherwise, I'm done for the day. Questions?
Hey Dan, how are you?
Yes. Hey, Dean.
Dean, cool. I just wondering if you could just touch on for a minute. Have you been seeing a lot more clients transition into a DST option, or has that been a bigger part of your business and more convenient? And also, how do you select and vet the vendors and planners for DSTs?
Yeah, good question, Dean. So number one, it's the DST has been our largest tool to get listings. Why? So imagine this: the demographic, somebody that's I'd say 70, could be 65, but typically 70 to 80s-year-olds, right? They got more money than they can spend. And by the way, that's your target market, right? The demographic of people with the more money than they can spend. So when you find that person, but when you find them, what you're going to realize is they don't want it anymore. They don't want to own it anymore. They don't want to manage it anymore. They're tired of the tenants, the toilets, the trash, the taxes, the insurance, the rising cost of owning it, the burden of owning it. It creates a cognitive and physical burden for them. They don't want it, but They go to the CPA and the CPA says, don't sell it. Why? Because of capital gains taxes. Because they believe that if you sell investment property, you got to buy another one. That's absolutely true. But they think that you have to manage it. Well, because if you bought a house here in Hawaii and you bought and you sold a house in Hawaii and you bought one anywhere else in the country, say Atlanta or somewhere, it doesn't matter. You still got a management problem, right? But if you have the DST, you don't have management issues, right? Management issues go away. It's like a passive income. It's like an annuity. So I did my first DST, my only DST. I shouldn't say first, my only one, about 5 years ago. I had a number of 1031 exchanges that I did and a couple of investment properties, had some significant gain. I didn't want to own properties. This is when COVID happened, right? When you couldn't kick your tenant out. And so I sold it and I put it into the DST. True transparency. As a guy that teaches this now, but back then I didn't measure my own asset. By the time I did, I was only getting a 2.1% return on my money. The DST gets me 4.5% return on my money, and I don't have to worry about the tenants. I've never once worried about my money, and it just shows up. It's like passive income, right? And so what it's doing is it's helping us unlock the real estate from people that don't want to manage it and puts it into more passive income. Because if you talk to somebody with wealth like that, they're going to say, I just want passive income. They don't want active income anymore. They want passive income. Well, the DST helps us get there. The second question you asked is, how do you vet them? I've looked, in the first few years, we did only the local financial planners. The challenge with local financial planners all over the country is they're governed by their broker-dealer agreements. So the broker-dealer typically only has one or two DST options, which means you don't have a full breadth of opportunities for the client. So then what I did is I looked around the country and I studied. There's four DST brokers around the country, and those guys, I called and interviewed. I ended up with JRW. JRW is out of Pasadena. They studied 92 DSTs in the country, brought out to the world by 52 sponsored organizations. And they will, if you want to geek out, we'll geek you out. Well, send me a message and I'll connect you, because they're legit. And since we started using them, they helped us unlock over a dozen listings. I would say maybe more than that, maybe 24 listings, $20 or $30 million this last year. Yeah. Was that helpful?
Very helpful as always, Dan. Thanks for all the info.
Sure. All righty. I'm over time.
Hey, Dan, I got a question for you.
Yeah, man.
So the class starts tomorrow. I'm actually watching this the Zoom on my phone, so I had to screenshot the QR code. So it starts tomorrow at what time? And is it $199 a class, or it's just $199 for the entire class?
$199 for all 4 classes.
Okay.
Graham, how can we get everybody this to make it easier for them to sign up?
Get everybody what?
What's the easiest? Oh, check a look at your chat.
Chat. Yeah, it's in the chat.
Yeah, it's in the chat. You can click on that, the MAPS coaching program, and sign up. And then if you use a Web 15, you're going to get 15% off of the $199.
Correct.
Yeah, and you will get the slides today as well.
Yeah, we'll also send a follow-up email to everybody who has registered for this promo class. So you will receive the sign-up link in your emails as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to send you an email.
All right, I'm going to sign up through the email link because it's hard on my cell phone right now.
All right, no worries, bro.
What
city are you in?
I'm in Atlantic City, New Jersey.
New Jersey. Oh, you guys got a lot of wealth over there. Yeah.
Well, we're gonna get it.
You can get it, bro.
We're gonna get it.
I ask people, I'm just curious, do you have any older adults in your market? Like everywhere's got people that are older. So anyways, yeah, you're gonna kill it on this. All right. I don't want to take up any more time. My apologies for running overtime. We look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow. If not, God bless you, and look forward to pouring into you some more. Talk to you soon.
All right.
Thank you.